You know, sometimes in a world with all the technological marvels that we have, it's interesting to see how the older, simpler, tried and tested way of doing things still seems to work as well, if not a little better in some cases, than the new stuff. Hey everyone, Daniel here, and welcome to Next Level Life, a channel where you can learn all about investing, debt, retirement, and many other general financial education videos besides, because let's face it, the schools aren't going to teach it for us. So if any of those topics sound interesting to you, or if you want to learn how to better handle your money and have more financial freedom, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell next to my name to be notified every time I upload a new video. So today, as you can no doubt tell by the title of the video, I'm going back to my series on the different methods of budgeting by taking a look at one of the oldest and most well-known budgeting strategies, the envelope method. If you're new to the channel, or if you just want to check out some of the other budgeting methods I've already covered, I've left a link to my budgeting playlist in the description below. But in today's video, I'm going to be going over what the envelope method is, as well as who I think it would work best for, and talk about how it can fail. So with that out of the way, let's get started. What is the envelope method? The envelope method, also sometimes known as the cash-only budget, or even the clip system if you follow Rachel Cruze, is just another method of budgeting where you keep cash tucked away in envelopes, hence the name, that are labeled for specific spending categories such as groceries, restaurants, entertainment, gas, and clothing. This budgeting system works by forcing you to allocate certain portions of your income for these variable expenses. You'll notice that I did not include rent or mortgage payments or insurance or even cell phone bills in that earlier list. And that's because those expenses are usually a little easier to predict and a lot more stable. So most people using the envelope method don't actually take cash out for those categories. They often have them paid automatically, in fact. And that's fine because the goal of the envelope method is to just control spending. It's by no means an exhaustive budgeting strategy, it's not the zero-sum budget after all. So with that being said, how does the envelope method actually work? Let's take a look at the steps. Step 1 to using the envelope method is to create a budget because the envelope method in and of itself is not really a fully fledged budget. As I said, it's a way to control spending in areas that would usually tend to break the budget if you don't control yourself. And the category that regularly would break my budget the most is food, so I'm going to be using that as an example in this video, but the categories that give you the most trouble may be entirely different. So you start by creating a budget that reflects your current financial situation. It won't be perfect, and you'll need to adjust it as you go on, but that's okay, just do the best you can. Step 2 is where you separate your expenses. Because expenses, like a mortgage payment or rent, are usually, like I said, pretty much the same from month to month, whereas things like entertainment expenses or food can vary pretty wildly, and those kind of variable expenses is what the envelope method tries to control. Once you've done that, you move on to step 3, which is where you divide your spending into categories such as food, gas, clothing, entertainment, and any other categories that may apply to your situation. Step 4 is to create an envelope for each of those categories that you just listed, and then you fill them up with the money that you've allotted to them in this month. Or just indicate on the envelope, if you haven't been paid yet, the amount that you're actually going to spend for that category. So let's say you've budgeted $500 a month for groceries, but you don't actually have $500 lying around right now. That's okay, you can still use the envelope method. Just write down $500 on the envelope for groceries so that you know how much you've budgeted for the month, and then when you get your first paycheck, you take $250 from your bank account, assuming of course that you're paid twice a month, and put that cash into the food envelope. When you get your second paycheck, you do the same thing. Again, take $250 out of your bank account and put it in that envelope. That's your $500 food budget for the month. You also do this for all of your other variable expense categories that you want to control your spending within. Step 5, of course, is to spend as the month goes along, using your money from the appropriate envelopes and only the money from the appropriate envelopes, because this budget is not going to work if you start shifting money between envelopes. And I should clarify that by saying it is okay to adjust your budget, like I said earlier. You're not going to have it perfect right away, and that's fine. But you don't want to just start taking money out of the food budget in order to buy that nice pair of jeans that you saw, because you're going to run out of food money. Or you're going to have to start bringing money from a third envelope into the food envelope so that you can continue to put food on the table, and then you're going to run out of money in that category, and eventually it just becomes an endless cycle where you're not actually really controlling your spending, which kind of defeats the purpose of using this method in the first place. Moving along, step 6 is to put any leftover money you might have at the end of the month into savings, or use it to pay down any debt you might have, or even roll it into the next month's envelope. That's something that I did when I was using the envelope method, because as I said, food was a real difficult category for me to control my spending in. So what I would do is I would roll over any money that I had left over in my food envelope into the next month, so I had a little bit of a buffer in case I slipped up and overspent one month. That way I wouldn't have to feel as bad about it, and I wouldn't have to start taking money from other envelopes just to keep food on the table. But I did also keep a tally of how much I was spending each month in food on the front of that envelope. And even though I did have some extra money after the first few months in that envelope, I did still try my best to stick to the original amount that I had budgeted. And like I said, it made it a lot easier for me to not get too discouraged or beat myself up if I made a mistake one month and overspent, which did happen occasionally. Finally, step 7 is to refill the envelopes at the end of the month and do it all over again. So who does this method work best for? Well, in my opinion, it would probably work best for those who, similar to me when I was just getting out of college and starting to make my way in the world, tend to overspend in those variable categories like food or entertainment, because the whole goal of this method is, again, to create a system that helps you control spending. A couple of things to keep in mind though is, as I've already said, don't be afraid to tweak your category amounts over the first few months especially, until you arrive at numbers that work for you, because it's very, very unlikely that you're going to get the numbers all correct on the first try. I certainly didn't. Heck, I didn't get them right until like the 4th try. But that's okay. Like I said, just do the best you can. Another thing that I found that really helped me was to reward myself when I did come in under budget, especially in categories like food. Because like I said, food was the toughest category for me personally to control, so whenever I came in under budget, I rewarded myself by going out to dinner an extra time the following month. And I think with something like the envelope method, those are very important things to keep in mind, because it can very easily fail if you allow yourself to get too discouraged or beat yourself up too much for slipping in one month or another. Or if, like I said, you start borrowing from other envelopes to keep up with another category. If you think this kind of thing is going to be a consistent problem for you, then you may want to try another one of the budgeting methods. Thankfully, there are of course a ton of other ones out there, and I will be continuing to cover as many of them as I can as I go forward. So that was the envelope method. I know this was a little bit different than my other videos, and it didn't have a whole lot of numbers put to it, but hopefully some of you found some value in it. But that'll do it for me today. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell next to my name so you'll be notified of all my future uploads. I generally upload every single Friday, and if you have a friend that would be interested in this kind of content, be sure to share it with them. Let's really get this information out there and start our own financial revolution.